Okay.
Go ahead, Tim, when you're ready.
All right, so as you can see, I did my presentation on animal testing, and I'm going to try not to make it super bad. What's the difference? People sometimes group animal testing and animal cruelty in the same group, but they do actually have completely different definitions. Animal testing is basically just using animals to determine the safety of practical procedures like medications. And animal cruelty is inflicting pain beyond necessary. The CCAC, the Canadian Council on Animal Care, it was founded in 1968 to protect animal rights that were used in testing. There are set rules and regulations in place for companies that use animals for testing. They have to have specific selection and care for the animals. There's immunization protocols, standard operating procedures, and immunogen preparation. Some of the animals that are most commonly used, it depends on what's being tested. Most often they're bred specifically for the experiment. Mice and rats are typically used for 75% of animal testing. They're used for genetic modifications, gene knockouts, so taking a specific gene and taking it out and seeing what happens. Same with gene knock-ins, taking a gene from another animal or something else, putting in, seeing what happens. Dogs have been used as well. Beagles most oftenly for cardiovascular and lung tests like that. Non-human primates, so apes, chimps, everything like that. They're used for vaccines, aging, reproductive studies, and gene therapy. These are just like the most common research methods that they're used for. So like I said, over 75% of animals are used in research are mice. Here's some pictures. So like these are some of the more commonly used animals. People have argued that there are alternatives to animal testing, and there are, but they're not nearly as effective or efficient yet. So some alternatives that could be used are in vitro, which is just test tube methods based on human tissue and cell cultures. Computer models and simulations, which aren't quite as effective as actual testing. Stem cell and genetic testing methods, as well as non-invasive imaging techniques, MRIs, CTs, again, not quite as effective. And microdosing, so they just take a tiny little amount of, say, some disease like, for example, Ebola, and they would inject into somebody who's volunteered, but it'd be a very, very tiny amount so that they build up an immunity. In the news, recently, vaccines have been tested for Ebola to see if they can prevent the spread of it, and right now, the Canadian vaccine has begun human trials. It was 100% effective in the animal testing, but quite often it doesn't transfer over, unfortunately, so hopefully it does work. And that's my presentation.